In a peaceful village, dark clouds begin to gather, signaling the arrival of Overlord Aranthor's evil forces. Kalen, a simple blacksmith, watches in horror as chaos erupts around him. He desperately tries to protect his beloved sister, Lyra, but tragedy strikes and he is unable to save her. Her screams haunt him, filling him with guilt and doubt. Alone in the silence after the attack, Kalen questions his strength and worth as a protector, setting the stage for a journey that will change his life forever. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow over Kalen's village. Children played in the fields, laughter ringing out like music. Yet, a sense of unease lingered in the air, like a whisper of a storm waiting to break. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, creeping closer with every passing moment. The village, once a picture of peace, now felt like a fragile bubble ready to burst. Kalen stood at his forge, the heat of the fire warming his face as he hammered away at a piece of iron. His sister, Lyra, danced around him, her laughter brightening the gloomy atmosphere. "You should take a break, Kalen. Come have some fun," she urged, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "I can't," he replied, not looking up. "I have to finish this sword before nightfall." But even as he spoke, a rumble echoed in the distance, shaking him to his core. He paused, the hammer falling from his hand. "Did you hear that?" he asked, concern creeping into his voice. Lyra stopped, her smile fading. "It sounded like thunder, but it's not supposed to rain today." Just then, the sky darkened further, and a shadow loomed over the village. Kalen dropped the sword and stepped outside, his heart racing. The villagers were looking up, their faces pale with fear. "Get inside! Everyone, hurry!" a voice shouted. It was the village elder, his expression grave. Kalen felt a chill run down his spine. He grabbed Lyra's hand. "We need to go now!" As they ran, the first wave of soldiers descended upon the village, dark figures moving swiftly, their armor glinting ominously. Kalen's heart pounded as chaos erupted. He could hear the screams of women and children, the clash of weapons, and the roar of the invaders. "Stay close to me, Lyra!" he shouted, pulling her along. They weaved through the chaos, dodging falling debris and frightened villagers. Kalen's mind raced with thoughts of what he could do to save them. "We have to find shelter," he yelled, trying to keep his voice steady. But as they turned a corner, they were met by a group of Aranthor's minions. The soldiers were ruthless, their eyes cold and merciless. Kalen pushed Lyra behind him, feeling a surge of protective instinct. "Stay back," he shouted, raising his fists, ready to fight. "Kalen!" Lyra cried, her voice filled with fear. "What will we do?" "Just trust me," he urged, stepping forward, but the soldiers advanced, and in a blur of movement, chaos ensued. Kalen swung at one of the invaders, but he was outmatched. The enemy was strong, and he stumbled back, helpless. In that moment of vulnerability, Kalen turned to see Lyra trying to escape. "Run, Lyra! Get to the others!" he screamed. But it was too late. A soldier caught her, dragging her away. Her screams pierced his heart, echoing in his mind as he fought to reach her. "No, Lyra!" He lunged forward, but another soldier pushed him down, the ground hard against his body. Panic gripped him as he watched helplessly. "Kalen!" she cried, her voice fading as fear consumed her. In that moment, Kalen felt his world shatter. The chaos receded, replaced by a haunting silence. The village that had been a home was now a scene of destruction. Kalen lay on the ground, crushed by the weight of his failure. Guilt washed over him like a tidal wave, threatening to drown him. "I couldn't save her," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. As he looked around at the remnants of his village, he felt the sting of shame. He had sworn to protect her, to be the hero she believed he could be. But now, he could only question his worth. "What good am I?" he murmured to himself, feeling small and lost. In the aftermath of tragedy, Kalen grappled with the darkness within him, the shadows of doubt and despair lingering like the dark clouds overhead. The thought of his sister's screams echoed in his mind, a haunting reminder of his perceived weakness. As the sun set behind the mountains, the light of hope dimmed, leaving Kalen alone with his pain and the weight of his shattered dreams. As the dust settled in Kalen's mind, flashes of warmth and light danced before him. He found himself back in the forge, where the rhythmic sound of hammer-striking anvil filled the air. The heat from the furnace embraced him like an old friend. It was a time before the darkness had invaded his life. Kalen remembered how he would spend hours crafting weapons and tools. His hands, calloused yet skilled, shaped metal with care. Each swing of the hammer brought him a sense of pride. He dreamt of becoming a hero, a protector of his village. "One day, I will make a sword worthy of a true hero," he'd often say, smiling at his sister Lyra, who would watch him with bright eyes. Lyra, always the light in his life, would giggle and say, "You will be the greatest hero, Kalen, just like the ones in the stories." Her laughter was music to his ears, a sound that filled the small home they shared. She believed in him with an unwavering faith that he often found hard to believe himself. "Do you really think I can be a hero?" Kalen had asked her one day, wiping sweat from his brow. "Of course, you have the heart of a lion. Just remember, heroes protect the ones they love," she replied, her eyes sparkling with sincerity. As Kalen stood in the forge, the memory of Lyra's encouragement washed over him like a wave. He could still hear her voice, echoing in his mind, urging him to find his strength. "You must be brave, Kalen. You can do this," she had said, just before the chaos had taken her away. But now, that strength felt distant, buried under layers of guilt and sorrow. Kalen clenched his fists, feeling the heat of determination rise within him. "I will honor your memory, Lyra," he whispered to the quiet forge. "I will not let your belief in me fade." The weight of his pain began to shift, transforming into a burning resolve that filled his heart. He could not change the past, but he could shape the future. The thought of revenge against Overlord Aranthor ignited a fire in his chest. "He will pay for what he has done," Kalen muttered, his jaw tightening. With each passing moment, the images of Lyra's smiling face fueled his determination. He envisioned himself confronting Aranthor, the very man whose darkness had stolen his sister away. "I will find you," he vowed, his voice low and fierce, "and I will make you suffer." Kalen looked around the forge, a place of both comfort and pain. He could hear the whispers of the past, the laughter of his sister mingling with the sounds of metalwork. "I need to be strong," he told himself. For her, gripping the handle of a sword he had been crafting, he felt the cool metal against his skin. It was more than just a weapon. It was a promise to protect, to fight, and to honor Lyra's belief in him. "I will not be weak," he declared, raising the sword above his head. "I will become the hero you always knew I could be." With renewed purpose, Kalen began to prepare for his journey. He gathered supplies, each item a step toward his goal. As he packed, he found a small pendant that Lyra had given him years ago. It was a simple piece, a charm shaped like a heart. He held it tightly in his palm, feeling its warmth. "You will be with me, Lyra," he said softly. Kalen stepped out of the forge, the sun setting in the distance. The colors painted the sky, a reminder of the beauty that still existed despite the darkness. "I will find the strength within me," he promised as he took a deep breath, "and I will bring light back to our village." With every step he took, Kalen felt the weight of his past shift. The pain of loss was still there, but it was now mixed with a fierce determination. He was no longer just a blacksmith. He was a brother seeking justice, a man ready to become the hero he had always dreamed of being. The path ahead was uncertain, but Kalen was ready to face whatever challenges awaited him, fueled by love, loss, and an unyielding spirit. Kalen stood at the edge of the forest, his heart racing with anticipation. He had set out on a quest, a journey that might change everything. The weight of his sister's loss still clung to him, but he felt a flicker of hope. As he took a deep breath, he stepped into the woods, ready to face whatever lay ahead. It was not long before he met Elira. She was perched on a low branch, her sharp eyes scanning the path ahead. Her long bow rested against her side, and her quiver was filled with arrows. She exuded confidence, a stark contrast to Kalen's lingering uncertainty. "Who goes there?" Elira called, her voice steady and clear. "It's just me," Kalen replied, raising his hands in peace. "I'm Kalen. I'm on a quest to stop Overlord Aranthor." Elira narrowed her eyes, studying him. "And why should I trust you? Many have tried to take him down and failed." Kalen took a step closer, determination in his eyes. "Because I need to do this. For my sister. I can't do it alone." Elira hesitated, then sighed. "All right, but know this. I have my own reasons for going after Aranthor. If you slow me down, I won't hesitate to leave you behind." Kalen nodded, grateful for her acceptance. "I won't let you down." As they traveled together, they shared stories of their pasts. Elira revealed her own pain, a village destroyed by Aranthor's minions. "They took everything from me," she said, her voice tinged with anger. "I want justice." Kalen understood her feelings. "We will make him pay," he promised. "Together." Their journey soon led them to Dorian, a mage who lived on the edge of a small village. When they found him, he was surrounded by books and strange artifacts. Dorian looked up, his expression wary. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice low and cautious. "We need your help," Elira said, stepping forward. "Kalen and I are going after Aranthor. We could use a mage's skills." Dorian shook his head. "I'm not interested in fighting. Magic can be dangerous." Kalen sensed Dorian's inner struggle. "But your magic could help save lives. Isn't that worth the risk?" Dorian hesitated, his fingers brushing against an old tome. "I have my demons to face. I don't know if I can help you." "Everyone has demons," Kalen replied, his voice firm. "But we cannot face them alone. Join us. We need each other." After a long pause, Dorian finally agreed. "Fine. But if things go south, I'll leave." With their group formed, they continued their quest. Soon, they faced their first major challenge. A fierce beast blocked their path, its eyes glowing with rage. It stood tall, muscles rippling beneath its dark fur. "What do we do?" Dorian whispered, fear creeping into his voice. "Stay together," Elira instructed, knocking an arrow to her bow. "We can take it down if we work as a team." Kalen clenched his fists, feeling the adrenaline surge through him. "I'll distract it. Elira, you aim for its heart. Dorian, use your magic to protect us." As Kalen charged forward, he felt the weight of his fear lifting. He was not alone. They fought together, dodging the beast's claws and striking when they could. "Now, Elira!" Kalen shouted, drawing the beast's attention. With a swift motion, Elira let her arrow fly, striking true. The beast let out a roar of pain, and Kalen seized the moment to strike again. They fought side by side, their movements becoming a dance of trust and strength. Dorian's magic swirled around them, providing a shield against the beast's attacks, while Elira's arrows flew like shooting stars. Finally, with one last effort, they brought the beast down. It collapsed with a heavy thud, and silence fell over the forest. Panting and exhausted, Kalen looked at his companions. "We did it. Together." Elira smiled, her eyes shining with newfound respect. "You're stronger than you think, Kalen." Dorian nodded, a small smile breaking through his usual serious demeanor. "Maybe there's hope for us yet." In that moment, Kalen felt a surge of camaraderie. He realized that trusting others was not a weakness, but a strength. Together, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The bond they had formed was more powerful than he had ever imagined, and it ignited a fire within him, pushing him forward on their quest against the darkness. As Kaelin, Elira, and Dorian journeyed through the dense forest, they stumbled upon a clearing that held an ancient stone tablet. The tablet was covered in strange symbols, and the air around it buzzed with a sense of magic. Kaelin stepped closer, his heart racing with excitement. "This must be a clue about the heart of Eldoria," he said, pointing at the symbols. Elira knelt beside him, her keen eyes scanning the tablet. "These markings speak of a powerful artifact," she said thoughtfully. "It can enhance the abilities of whoever possesses it, but it also tests their resolve. We must be careful." Dorian, standing a little farther back, crossed his arms and frowned. "What does that even mean? Power with a price? Sounds like a trap to me." Kaelin turned to Dorian, sensing the unease in his voice. "We all want to defeat Aranthor. If this artifact can help us, we cannot ignore it." "But at what cost?" Dorian retorted, his voice rising. "What if it changes us? What if it leads us down a darker path?" Elira intervened, her calm demeanor soothing the tension. "We will face that challenge when we come to it. Right now, we need to decide how to proceed." The group stood in silence, each lost in their thoughts. Kaelin felt the weight of their quest pressing down on him. He wanted revenge for Lyra, yet he could not shake the feeling that there was more at stake than just his own pain. As they moved on, the sounds of the forest faded, replaced by distant cries for help. They followed the noise, leading them to a small village. The scene that greeted them was one of chaos. Villagers ran in all directions, fear etched on their faces. A band of raiders was attacking, stealing what little they had left. Kaelin's heart raced. He could feel the anger boiling inside him, urging him to rush forward and fight. But then, he remembered the tablet's warning. This was a test of resolve. He looked at his companions, who were clearly as taken aback as he was. "We can't just stand here," Elira exclaimed, her bow ready. "We need to help them." Dorian hesitated, glancing at Kaelin. "But the heart of Eldoria, we need to find it. We can't lose focus." Kaelin took a deep breath, his mind racing. He thought of Lyra and her last words to him. "Kaelin, you can be strong. You can be a hero." He turned to his friends, determination shining in his eyes. "We save the villagers first. If we are to be heroes, we must protect the innocent." Without waiting for a response, Kaelin charged into the fray. Elira and Dorian quickly followed, ready to stand by his side. The trio fought fiercely, using their unique skills to drive back the raiders. Kaelin swung his sword with purpose, each strike fueled by the memory of his sister. Elira's arrows flew true, striking down enemies with precision. Dorian used his magic to create barriers and protect the villagers. As the tide of battle turned, Kaelin noticed a small girl, trapped beneath a fallen beam. Panic gripped him as he shouted over the chaos. "Someone help her!" Elira nodded and ran towards the girl, while Kaelin and Dorian continued to fend off the remaining raiders. Together, they freed the child, who trembled with fear. "Thank you," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Kaelin knelt beside her, heart aching for her plight. "You are safe now. We won't let anyone hurt you." Once the last raider was defeated, the villagers began to gather around them, gratitude shining in their eyes. Kaelin felt a warmth inside, a sense of fulfillment that he had not expected. One of the villagers, an older man with a weathered face, stepped forward. "You saved us. We owe you our lives." Kaelin shook his head. "We did what anyone would do. We all have the power to protect one another." As the villagers began to rebuild, Kaelin felt the bond between him, Elira, and Dorian grow stronger. They had faced a choice and chose compassion over vengeance. In that moment, Kaelin understood what true heroism meant. It was not just about seeking revenge or gaining power. It was about standing up for those who could not protect themselves. With renewed purpose, the trio set their sights back on their quest for the heart of Eldoria. knowing that their bonds would guide them through the challenges ahead. As Kalen and his companions drew closer to Overlord Aranthor's lair, a thick tension filled the air. The path ahead was dark and foreboding, and Kalen felt the weight of their mission pressing down on him. Each step brought memories of Lyra flooding back, her laughter echoing in his mind like a haunting melody. He paused for a moment, taking a deep breath to steady himself. "We can't turn back now," Lyra said softly, her hand resting lightly on Kalen's shoulder. "We owe it to Lyra to finish this." Kalen nodded, but doubt crept into his heart. "What if I fail again?" he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "What if I let you all down?" "You won't," Dorian replied, his tone firm. "We believe in you, Kalen. You have grown stronger than you realize." As they continued their journey, Kalen felt the warmth of their faith in him, but the pain of Lyra's loss was a constant reminder of his past failures. He thought of her last words, urging him to find his inner strength. "I must find a way to honor her," he whispered, determination mixing with grief. The lair loomed before them, a dark fortress surrounded by jagged rocks and swirling shadows. Kalen's heart raced. "This is it," he said, his voice steadier now. "This is where we confront Aranthor." The group pressed on, but soon they encountered a troubling sight. A figure emerged from the shadows, a member of their group who had been quiet for some time. It was Kalen, his face twisted with conflict. "I don't know if I can keep going," he said, his voice shaky. "What if we're not strong enough? What if we fail?" Kalen felt a pang of frustration. "We have to trust each other," he urged. "We've come too far to give up now. Lyra would not want us to turn back." Kalen shook his head, doubt still clouding his eyes. "But what if we're just walking into a trap? Aranthor is powerful. We're just a bunch of misfits." Lyra stepped forward, her gaze piercing. "We are not misfits. We are a team. Each of us has a reason to fight. Kalen fights for his sister, and I fight for my home." "What do you fight for, Kalen?" Kalen hesitated, the fire in his heart flickering. "I fight for a chance to make things right," he finally admitted. "But I'm scared." Kalen took a step closer, his voice filled with empathy. "So am I. But fear can push us to be better. It can drive us to fight harder. We will face whatever comes together." After a moment, Kalen nodded slowly, the resolve returning to his eyes. "You're right. I won't let fear hold me back." With renewed determination, the group approached the lair's entrance. The air crackled with energy, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. Suddenly, Aranthor's minions surged forth, their snarls echoing in the darkness. The battle had begun. "Stay close!" Kalen shouted, raising his sword. "We fight as one!" The clash of weapons and the cries of battle filled the air. Kalen fought fiercely, remembering Lyra's smile and the promise he made to protect those he loved. Each swing of his sword felt like a step toward redemption, a way to channel his grief into strength. Lyra's arrows flew with precision, striking down enemies before they could reach Kalen. "We're doing it!" she called out, her spirit brightening the dark surroundings. But just as hope surged through them, more minions poured out, overwhelming their defenses. Kalen felt his heart race, panic threatening to take hold. "We need to regroup," he yelled, but the chaos was consuming. "Keep fighting," Dorian shouted, his magic illuminating the darkness. "We can't give up now." Kalen's breath came in sharp gasps as he pushed forward, his determination stronger than ever. He could feel the weight of his past failures lifting, replaced by the fire of resolve. He was no longer just a blacksmith. He was a protector, a leader. As the battle raged on, Kalen found himself face to face with a powerful minion, a creature of darkness that towered over him. With a fierce battle cry, he lunged forward, his sword cutting through the air. In that moment, he realized that he was fighting not just for revenge, but for something greater. the chance to protect those who mattered. With every clash of steel and burst of magic, Kalen understood that true strength came from the bonds forged in battle and the love that fueled his fight. He would not let Lyra's memory be in vain. With a final, determined strike, he pushed through the darkness, leading his friends into the heart of the battle, ready to face whatever came next. The air around Kalen crackled with tension as he faced the imposing figure of Overlord Aranthor. The dark clouds swirled above, mirroring the chaos that had once engulfed his village. This was the moment he had prepared for, but now, standing before his enemy, Kalen felt the weight of his choices pressing down on him. Aranthor, clad in armor that glimmered like obsidian, sneered at Kalen. "You think you can defeat me, boy? You think your little quest has made you strong?" His voice was cold, filled with arrogance. Kalen gripped his sword tightly, but his heart raced with uncertainty. "I do not seek to defeat you for the sake of power," he replied, trying to steady his voice. "I seek justice for my sister and for all those you have harmed." Lurking in the shadows of the darkened battlefield, Lyra and Dorian watched as their friend confronted the Overlord. They could feel the tension in the air, knowing that this would be a test of Kalen's resolve. "Don't lose yourself, Kalen," Lyra whispered to Dorian. "He needs to remember who he is." Dorian nodded, his face serious. This is a moment of choice. He must not let vengeance blind him. As Kalen faced Aranthor, he remembered the journey that had brought him here, the friends he had made, the lives he had touched, and the lessons he had learned. He thought of Lyra's last words, urging him to find his inner strength. "I have learned much," Kalen said, stepping forward. "I have learned that strength is not just in defeating foes, but in standing for what is right." Aranthor laughed, mocking Kalen's words. "What do you know of strength? You are just a fool playing hero." Kalen felt anger surge within him, but he fought to keep it in check. "Maybe I am a fool, but I will not become a monster like you." He raised his sword, but instead of charging, he paused. "I have a choice to make." The Overlord's eyes narrowed as he sensed the shift in Kalen's demeanor. "What are you saying?" "Kill you," Kalen declared, his voice steady. "That will not bring Lyra caused. Instead, I choose mercy. I choose to spare ye." From amusement to confusion. "You would let me live after all I have done?" "Yes," Kalen said firmly. "You are not beyond redemption. Perhaps there is still a chance for you to change." The battlefield fell silent. Lyra and Dorian exchanged glances, unsure of what would happen next. They had expected a fierce battle, yet here stood Kalen, offering mercy to the man who had caused so much pain. "What folly is this?" Aranthor spat, struggling to comprehend. "You think mercy will save ye?" Kalen lowered his sword. The weight of his will not save me, but may save you this. It may bring peace instead of more bloodshed. The Overlord laughed bitterly, but there was a hint of uncertainty in his eyes. "You think compassion will change me?" "I do," Kalen. "I believe that everyone has a chance to choose a different path, even you." As the dust settled around them, a strange stillness enveloped the battlefield. Kalen's heart raced, but he felt a sense of relief wash over him. In choosing mercy, he had chosen the path of true strength. Aranthor hesitated, and for the first time, doubt flickered across his face. "You are an unexpected foe, Kalen. Perhaps I have underestimated you." With a nod, Kalen stepped back, sheathing his sword. "I choose to uplift those who remain, to heal the wounds your darkness has caused. That is my true calling." As Kalen turned to his friends, he saw the surprise in their eyes. Lyra stepped forward, pride shining in her gaze. "You did it, Kalen. You chose hope over hate." Dorian smiled, relief flooding his features. "You have changed the course of this battle, my friend. You have shown us what it truly means to be strong." Kalen looked out over the battlefield, no longer just a place of conflict, but a chance for healing. He knew that true strength lay not in defeating enemies, but in lifting others up. Together, they would pave the way for a brighter future in Eldoria. Share this story if you believe that mercy and compassion can triumph over even the darkest challenges. Leave a comment about a time when choosing forgiveness transformed your life, and subscribe for more inspiring tales like this one.